Hey everybody, this is Joel Toppin, and what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to show you some of the cool things that we are doing with the game Navajo Wars. As you can see, if you've watched any of the earlier videos, we have made some changes to the map, and in recent days we made some very cool improvements to the game, and those are the improvements I want to talk to you about. First of all, we've added a way for the player to win an automatic victory. If the player reduces enemy morale down to 0, then during the discard phase, the player automatically wins a major victory. And it's not an easy thing to do, but it's something that's achievable and gives the players new options. One of the things we really wanted to do with the game was to speed up gameplay. And so how we've done that is we have introduced some new cards called ceremony cards. So what I'm going to go ahead and do here is I'm just going to start playing a game, and I'll show you what the ceremony cards do as we run into them. So we have set up the game for the Spanish period, and our first card pull here is an operations card, and we do have the opportunity here to preempt and go first, and I think I'm going to actually go ahead and take that opportunity. So I'm going to spend 3 action points, and we'll go ahead and go back over here to the operations card. We've spent our 3 APs. We go first. I'm going to take family B, and I'm going to plant corn in the San Juan Valley. And then I'm going to take family C, and I'm going to go 1, and then I'm going to move 2, 3, 4 movement points. I have 6 movement points to begin with, but that is now modified by -1 for each empty box on that family. So if I didn't have a kid here in family C, the Chinli family, if I did not have a counter here, then what would happen is I would only have 5 APs, or 5 movement points to spend. If I didn't have the woman and the child, now I've got 2 empty spaces, so now you'd only have 4 movement points to spend. So that's something that's ratcheted up the difficulty a little bit and made players have to do some new things in gameplay. So it's really kind of a cool new mechanic we're working with. Alright, so he spent 4 of his 6 movement points, and he's just going to go ahead and stop there. Next, we have Family A hasn't done anything, so what we're going to do with them is we're going to raid New Mexico. Now, there's a risk in doing it early, because if we pull a red cube out, then it has to go into the subjugation of the Pueblos box. And what that represents is the Navajo tribe intervening in the Spanish Pueblo conflict. And if you pull a red cube out, it shows Navajo warrior bands that are helping the Spanish. If you pull any other color cube, then it could mean it means that you are helping the Pueblos against the Spanish. So it can work either way, and you don't have total control over how that works. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and spend our first movement point, since we're only 1 point away from Santa Fe, to raid New Mexico. And we pull a brown cube, which is ideal because we need horses early on. And our ferocity goes up 1. And I'll spend a second one. We'll hit them again, and this time we draw a yellow cube, which means we have captured some slaves, some young Spaniards we have managed to capture. Ferocity goes up again. And I'll play with fire and go ahead and try it one more time. And that's perfect. I pulled a white cube, which means I capture sheep, which is something I also need as soon as possible in the game. Because feeding your people is much more important now than it used to be. And we've made it easier. We've streamlined a lot of processes in the game, but feeding your people with using corn and sheep is very important now. A lot more so than it used to be. Okay, so we've gone ahead and spent 3 movement points. We'll spend our next to move back here, but we're going to use our horses to make the movement more efficient. Whoops, that's family B. Put the horses here in family A's box. So now we're going to use the parenthesized movement point cost. So that cost us our 4th movement point and our 5th to move here, and we'll stop. And we're all done. Now it's the enemy's turn. They're going to get 2 APs because we preempted them. They have to use the parenthesized value. They get 2 APs minus the number of cubes in the box, but they'll always get at least 1. So what happens here is the enemy is going to get 1 action point to spend. They next roll 2 dice, Now I rolled a 4 and a 5. That means the counters on the active column here of the enemy instruction display, numbers 4 and 5, are going to flip over. But let's imagine for a second that I'd rolled 2 5s. If I'd rolled doubles, what's happening now is when you roll doubles, counters don't flip. Instead, they swap places. So if I'd rolled 2 5s, these counters would have swapped places and no counters would have flipped. So that's one of the cool new things that we're adding to the game as well. But in this case, I didn't roll doubles, so those two just flipped over. The enemy will then spend one movement, or one action point, excuse me, to try to subjugate the Pueblos. They're going to pull a cube, but they pulled a white one. And any cubes that they pull go into the recovery box. And that's all the APs they have to spend. So we go ahead and reset the enemy instruction display. And the enemy is now done. Next, we do the major event. Trappers and Traders requires us to roll to determine an area. We roll 3, so it's going to be the Zuni Mountains, because there's the little die roll symbol. And then we roll another to find out which box it goes into, and we rolled a 4. So in box number 4 of die roll 3, the Zuni Mountains, we place an intruder. Now intruders most of them are good. Some of them are neutral, they're neither good nor bad. Couple of them are bad, and the more intruders you place, the more likely it is you'll run into a bad one. But some of them are really good, like you can get firearms from these unscrupulous traders, that sort of thing. You can get trade goods. Sometimes you'll find recruits to join your tribe. So there's several different things that could happen here, but I won't know what it is until I send one of my families into that raid box. Next, we do the minor event, which tells us to roll a single die, and we swap instructions on a 1. We rolled a 1, so both of those instructions will swap places. So very interesting there. Okay, next we discard the card and go to the next card. Next card is a ceremony card. Now these are what we've included to greatly speed up gameplay. The resolution of ceremony cards is very quick. Basically, each ceremony card has a blessing way and an enemy way effect. These are both the names of the two most prominent of the Navajo religious ceremonies. Blessing way effect is used when the player has one of these cards in his hand. He may then discard the card to trigger the blessing way. And what that is it allows you to change any die roll during a battle, evasion, or during the player's operation segment. It'll turn that die roll immediately into whatever's pictured on the card. And you have to declare that before you roll a dice. You can't retroactively play one. So say it was my turn to do something, I could discard this card to roll 3, provided this card was in my hand. The enemy way, these effects are universally bad. These things do a number of bad things, and the more extreme the die roll, in other words, 1s and 6s in the game, because those are the most powerful die rolls that you can arrange, those particular cards have the most devastating enemy way effects. Here's how this works. When we draw the card, we conduct the enemy way effect on all ceremony cards in the player's hand. There's no limit to how many of these cards you can have in your hand. You can keep storing these things up, but do so at your own risk, because anytime you draw a ceremony card, it triggers the enemy way effect on all the ceremony cards in your hand. We don't have any in our hand yet, so we do the next thing, which says reset cubes. So we go ahead and reset this. See, if we'd had a card in our hand, we would have triggered that and then reset the cubes, but since we don't have a card in our hand, all we do is reset cubes here for step 1. For step 2, we either discard this card, that keeps it from coming into our hand, or we can do step 3. And that's what I'm going to do. We're going to do step 3, which tells us to add 1 woman population counter, as pictured here, into the passage of time box, and so this woman will eventually join our tribe and become part of our tribe. And then we have to add this card to our hand. So, in other words, if you take the population counter, you have to take the card into your hand as well. Alright, next card comes up, we draw it, and it is an operations card, but we no longer have any APs, so the enemy will go first. They're going to get 3 action points, and there's no cubes in this box, so they're just going to get 3 to spend. We rolled 2 dice, and we rolled a 6 and a 4. The 6 is a black stripe, so it doesn't flip over, but the one on a 4 isn't, so he flips over. And the topmost instruction, the reason I didn't grab the counters is the topmost instruction costs 3 APs and it didn't get flipped. So that's the one they're going to resolve. It costs 3 APs to do. They will build a mission here. And they have no more APs to spend, so that resets. And the enemy is done. Now it's our turn. Now, we got an ideal situation here because we have a woman, we have a child, and we have a man in our passage of time box. So what I want to do here is I want to do a planning operation so I can get this population counter. So here's how this works now. It's a little different than how it has been in the past. We've streamlined some things. So I'm going to take a planning operation, and what that does is it causes all my elders to slide to the right, and that gives me 1 AP for each elder that I moved. I moved 3 of them, so I get 3 APs. Very cool. All right, next I get to do an elder action with each of those, and I'm actually going to try to use all 3 of those elder actions to add more APs. So I got to roll 1 or a 2 for these 2 guys. First guy misses, second guy misses, and then for the third one I need to roll 1, and I didn't. I rolled 3 4s in a row. Now what I could do is, since I had one of these cards in my hand, instead I could have discarded this, but it would have been an automatic failure because I needed 1s and 2s. I didn't need any 3s. So I'm just going to hold on to that card. But I could, if I wanted to, if I really want to get this card out of my hand, I could have, discarded it and just, automatically fail on one of these rolls just to get the card out of my hand. But the enemy way effect on this one isn't that severe, so I don't feel too bad about that. All right, that's all I'm going to do there. If I'd gotten some more APs, I probably would have bought some trade goods, but I don't want to spend any more action points. So that's all I'm going to do with that. And then that triggers a resetting of the cubes, so these go back in the cup. All right, and now we do the major event, which tells us the Ute raid instruction has to slide over to the active column. Next, we have to check and see if there's any drought on the map. If there isn't, we're just going to ignore it. And since it's early in the game, there actually isn't any drought counters, so none of them are going to be removed for the minor events. So this card is done. Next card is going to be, it's a ceremony card. Well, here's what's going to happen. We conduct the enemy way effect on all ceremony cards in the player's hand. And then we reset cubes. Well, there's no cubes to reset. So, all right, well, the enemy way effect tells us to place 2 intruder counters. So for each one, we roll to select an area. So the first one's going to be area 3 and box 3. And since we already have a family there, it is immediately revealed, and it turns out it's a false rumor, so there's no effect. It goes back in the cup. And now for the second one, we roll a die to determine the area, area 2 and box 5. So that goes right up here. I would have liked to gotten firearms there, so oh well. All right, now after I've done that, it says the player may discard this card. If discarded, though, I remove 1 woman from passage of time if possible. Oh, and I forgot, on my last card, since I took planning, and it had a man symbol on the card, I put a man into the passage of time. I forgot to do that. All right, and that's one of the things that's a little bit different. So you used to take operations cards into your hand, and you could play them during passage of time. Now we've just streamlined that. Whenever you do a planning, as part of the planning step process, you go ahead and put the population symbol on that card into passage of time. And so since the last card had a man on it, I would get that guy into the passage of time box. Well, this is a way I can get rid of this woman. I could get rid of this woman by, or get rid of this card in my hand, I should say, by discarding it, but then I'd have to lose the woman there. I don't want to do that, so I'm going to hold on to that card. All right, so we've finished the enemy way effect on all of our cards in hand. Reset cubes doesn't apply, so now we do step 2. We can either discard this card or add this card to our hand. Oh, tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and add this one to my hand anyways. It's kind of dangerous, but I'm going to throw it in my hand because the enemy way effect isn't too bad on this one either. And that allows me to put a child into passage of time. So that's cool. All right, and that card is done. Next card comes up, and it is an event, or excuse me, an operations card. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to go ahead and preempt. Now we're several cards into the deck, and one of the top 9 cards is going to have a historic event. When a historic event is pulled, one of the things that's going to happen on it is you're going to lose half your counters, player's choice, from passage of time. So I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to go ahead and actually preempt. Since I have the APs to spend, I want to go first here, and I'm going to do a passage of time operation. And now here's how this works. This is a little different than in the past. First, we do all of our population stuff. We don't feed everybody first. Instead, we do all of our population stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this child here, I'm going to turn that child into a man. I'm going to then turn the man into an elder. So basically, you can turn a child into anything, ultimately. And I'm going to put that elder into the elder display. Next, I'm going to put this counter here. I'm going to put these 3 counters into a new family. I'm going to bring a new family into play here. Family D. Shushbeto family. And I'm going to put them up in here in Canada. All new families have to be built in Canada. Okay, next, take all the animals out, put them into the resources box here. Now I gotta decide if I want to harvest corn. I do. Let's flip this guy over. It says 0. So I'm just going to discard it. Well, that's no good. So we have a problem here. How am I going to feed all these people? Well, let's tabulate the area value. Canyon de Chelly can feed 3, Zuni Mountains 3, Shiprock 3, and San Juan Valley 3. So I can feed a total of 12 people with the land value. So 3, 6, 9, 12. All my family members down here in A, B, C, and D are all they're all fed. So that's good. But I have to feed my elders, and this is a new rule. You must feed your elders if possible. Now, before I feed my people, I do get to breed my horses, or breed my animals. So I have at least 1 horse counter, so I get another one. I have at least 1 sheep counter, so I get another one. But I'm immediately, now when I go to feed my people, I have to discard a sheep to feed these 4 elders. If you have the means, you must try to feed everyone possible, even if it means it's not very efficient or you have to feed an elder that's about ready to die. All right, so everybody's fed. This has all worked out pretty good. Now I have to check. I have to make an elder death roll for each of these guys. I got to find out if these guys die. Now, the further they go to the right, the more capable they become during a planning operation when you do elder actions, but the more likely it is they'll die during passage of time. Now, what some playtesters were doing was they just plan. They wouldn't ever do passage of time. You're going to get severely punished for that behavior now, because when a historic event triggers, you're going to lose people from passage of time, and that's eventually going to bite you big time. You can start off very good in this game and have it go downhill very fast if you lose population counters during passage of time. So that's why I quickly took that opportunity to do that. And it's also, the game also punishes you for having family members outside of, if you have families that are lacking population counters, there are some serious penalties for that now. So I don't want to take those 3 kids and turn them into a whole new family here, family E. That would actually be a mistake now. So I got to check for elder death. I got to roll on a die roll of 1 or 2. Either of these guys will die. On a die roll of 1, this guy will die. So what I'm going to do to avoid this, I got 2 cards in my hand, and since it's my operation segment, I will discard both of these. The first to make sure this guy passes his check. Second one to make sure this guy passes his check. Now for the third guy, anything but a 1, and he'll live. And I rolled a 4, so he lives. Excellent. Next, I have to roll to remove drought, but there's still no drought on the map. We haven't encountered that yet, so we're good. All right, now the enemy goes, and they have 2 action points they're going to collect, and we're off to a very promising start here. There are no cubes in the box to diminish that, but the topmost instruction is going to cost more than 2, unless I roll snake eyes. Now let's just, for the sake of argument, say I roll snake eyes. Oh no, now the situation's completely changed. Now they do have enough action points to fulfill that. So they spend both of them, And they draw 2 cubes, 1 for each AP spent, and they drew out 2 brown cubes. So that's going to go into there. And so now the Spaniards are getting maybe a leg up here in their war with the Pueblos. And then that counter slides over. We reset the display. And the event is not applicable if card number 41 is still in the deck, which it is, or if it's in play, it's not in play, but it is still in the deck, then there is no effect. So we know it's still in the deck because we haven't drawn it yet. So there's no effect for the major event, but now we get to place Drought. We roll a die, and we seem to be rolling a lot of 4s. And it goes here in Monument Valley. Okay, so Monument Valley is experiencing some drought. This counter here is then discarded. And we go to the next card. Oh, Pueblo Revolt. Okay, so this event, we've done a lot of work with this event. Here's what it does now. Immediately, we return all cubes from the subjugation, rated cubes box, and recovery boxes back to the cup. Now, why would you remove all the red cubes from the subjugation of the Pueblos box? Because the Pueblos are revolting. So the Pueblos could theoretically be subjugated more than once in the game. So you could subjugate them early. I've seen it happen early in the game, like first couple cards, the Spanish get lucky and they pull all 3 red cubes out early. But then this event upsets the apple cart, they revolt, all the cubes go back in, and now they have to do it all over again. But now the enemy instruction display is ignored. We're going to go ahead and put this counter, or excuse me, this card. Since it's an active historic event, we put it up here as a reminder that it's active. The enemy is going to get a bonus +1 AP, and they're going to spend all their action points to try to subjugate the Pueblos. And they will continue to do that until all 3 cubes are in here. So this is something that is going to happen. It's inevitable. The Pueblos will be subjugated. Well, now we have to do a victory check segment. So how this works is we count the number of families on the map, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4. And we collect 4 culture. So we go ahead and take this 1, 2, 3, 4, flip it to its +10 side, and then we diminish it by 1 for according to the raid box value of each raid box that has an outpost. So there's an outpost here on raid box 1, so we lose 1 culture for that. And then we can spend culture to buy a cultural development card. You know what? I think I had the culture marker in the wrong spot because we should have gained 3. We should start at 9. Let's see, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, no, we're right. We're right. So we got 12 culture. We're going to pick up some military points in a moment. I want to make sure I do this right. I'll tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and spend 1 to pick up horsemanship level 1. So it's going to cost me 1 culture point to bring that cultural development card into play. So reduce that down. Next, we look at the victory point value of each area that contains at least 1 family, and we have 3, 4, 5 for San Juan, 6, 7 for Zuni Mountains, and then we subtract the value of the card, and the card has a value of 3, so we gain 4 military points. So we now have 9 military points and 11 culture points. Now, we add those 2 together, 11. Whoops, I slid that the wrong way. We flip-flopped the numbers here on the track. So we have 9 military, 11 culture. We add them together, we get a value of 20. If your military plus culture is greater than 19, enemy morale drops by 1. So we are now 1 step closer to an automatic victory. So we're off to a very good start here. Okay, and although the cubes would reset ordinarily through one of these instructions here, but the event actually put them all back in the cup. Unfortunately, though, we did lose. If we'd had any APs, action points, we would have lost all those as a function of the victory check segment as well. So that card is then done. So we draw another card. Now we have no APs to preempt, so the enemy is going to go first with 4 plus 1 for 5. Pulls from the cup to try to subjugate the Pueblos. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and not one of them is red, which is bad for us in a sense because if we do any raids right now, the chances are greatly increased that we're going to pull either a red or a green cube. So it kind of forces us into a state of neutrality here in the Pueblo Spanish War. So I'll tell you what we're going to go ahead and do is we will take actions. We're going to take actions. We're going to take our, because I want to spread my families out here a little bit here. So I'm going to go ahead and take family C, and they're going to spend 4 movement points. Check that. Let's give them a horse. So it only cost them 2 movement points, and let's reveal this, and it's a false rumor for no effect. Wow. So he wasted 2 movement points, and then 3 to come back here, and then he'll stop. He'll just stay there. Family B, try to get a little bit luckier with corn. We'll just plant corn with families A and B. Family D, you know what? They'll also plant corn. Might as well plant the corn while I'm at it. Okay, major event. Apaches raid New Mexico. We pull a cube, and it's a red cube. So we put in the subjugation of the Pueblos. Basically, the Spanish have gotten Apache allies in their war with the Pueblo tribes. So the Pueblo revolt is now turning against the Pueblo tribes. All right, now we check for drought. So we roll a die. The die roll is a 1, so drought is now present in Shiprock. And that card is done. Next card comes up, and it is an operations card. Again, we don't have APs, so the enemies can go first with 5. +1 for the event, 6. +1 for the red cube, that's 7. So they're probably going to end the Pueblo revolt here. So 7 pulls, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And they pulled, I think, just about every cube but that last red one. So the revolt is dragging on, but now it's absolutely insane for us to try to raid New Mexico, because it looks like we've got 1, 2, 3. All 3 of the black cubes are out. All 3 of the brown cubes are out. Both of the yellow cubes are out. The only cubes left in the cup are 1 white and 1 red. So that limits our actions here. What we're going to go ahead and do, I want to get rid of this mission is what I want to do. But I can't afford to do that now. So what I'm going to do is take a planning operation. All of these guys will slide to the right. We'll get 4 APs out of that. Next, we have a raid coming at us. But I really do want to keep this guy up here ferocious, so I'm not going to try to reduce him. Instead, I'm going to try to go ahead and spend or use my elder actions to get more action points. We'll start with him, and we rolled a 2, so we get 1 AP. The next guy rolls a 1, he gets an AP. And the guy to the left misses, and the last guy needed a 1, he misses. All right. Now, I've got 6 APs. I'm going to spend 3 of those right away to use 3 of my women from one of my families to buy trade goods. So trade goods go into here, and that'll help me out later on. And since I did a planning operation, I get to take, see, it's got an elder on the card, so I get to put an elder into Passage of Time. I reset the cubes, but historic event says ignore all reset cubes instructions while active. So this prohibits any resetting of the cups. So nothing I can do about that. The Pueblos will get subjugated here. All right, the major event is planning operate. If a planning operation was undertaken, I can look at the next 3 cards and arrange them in any order. That's really powerful. So let's look at them. The next one is that. Then that one. Then that one. You know what I'm going to do is I am going to stack the deck. I'm going to put this one down, and I'm going to make it so I draw the ceremony card next, then the Apache Revolt card. All right. That's what we're going to do. Okay, now we have to roll die here to find out which counters swap places on the enemy instruction display. We rolled a 3. So these 2 counters swap places. Okay, very good. And this card is then discarded. We draw again, and no surprise, it's the ceremony card because we stacked the deck. Okay, we have no enemy raid cards in our hand. Reset cubes is ignored per the active historic event. I am going to add this card to my hand. So I'm going to put that in my hand, and that will allow me to put a woman into Passage of Time. Let me go to the next card. See how fast that is with the ceremony cards. All right, next card is Operations, and this time I am going to let the enemy go first because I want them to finish this war. And so we're just going to draw the last 2 cubes out. There's basically, they're going to get 4, 5, 6, 7 APs, but they're going to spend all of them for Subjugate the Pueblos, and any left over are wasted. So, all right, now when the 3rd cube is put in that cup, at any time the 3rd cube is put in that cup, then what happens is we reset the cubes. So, and non-red cubes would go in here. So what happens is all these cubes go back into the cup, and that's why I wanted the enemy to go first. Now it's our turn, and now I want to do bad things to them. I'm going to take family A, and I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, spend 1 more, 4, to pull a cube. It's a black cube, which means the mission takes a hit and is destroyed. So it's removed from play, and we put our culture points up by +1. All right, I got 2 movement points left, and I'll move back here to my starting blocks. Next, I'm going to take family B, and I'm going to give, I think I forgot to give family A my horse. Yeah, I did. Family A needs a horse to do all that. So family B, what I'm going to do with him is he's going to move to the canyon. It's an automatic move. And then family D from the canyon is going to automatically move to here to reveal the counter. It's a peaceful encounter, frosty -1 if possible. All right, so it's nothing. Total waste of time. All right, so we're out of APs, but I'm going to take family C will go ahead and plant corn themselves. So we'll go ahead and do that. All right, so we've acted with all of our families. Now the enemy has gone, we've gone, we do the event. The event is Apache War in New Mexico. If card 41 removed from play, which it is, since we subjugated the Pueblos, this should be removed from play. Okay, it's removed from play. Then what happens is we take one of the red cubes and put it back into the cup. And what that symbolizes is now there's an Apache War in New Mexico. So that's going to slow the Spanish down a little bit. But since the Pueblos were subjugated, we do have to take all these black striped boys and flip them over to their more dangerous raid sides. So now we check for drought. Roll a 1. So there's big time drought going on in Shiprock. And this card is discarded. All right, we're going to conclude the demo here with this particular card play, which, you know, we stacked a deck with this, but I want to show you some of the cool things you can do now with the new system. All right, so the enemy, we're out of action points, so the enemy is going to go first. They're going to get 5, 6, 7, 1 for each of these cubes, -1 for this. So 5, 6, 7, 6 APs. So we put 6 into the available box. Roll 2 dice, and we rolled a 2 and a 6, which is ideal. So the 2 is going to flip over, but the 6 does not because it's a black stripe. Topmost instruction is a raid with a value of 3, so we take 3 of these guys out, and we put it into Santa Fe. We then tabulate all the ferocity of our on-map families. We have a total of 3 ferocity for all of our families combined, so we add 3 more to Santa Fe. And then we flip all of these over to their raid sides, and they're going to raid us. Now, I want to do an ambush, but an ambush is going to cost me 1 action point. But remember, I bought trade goods. I can spend 2 of my trade goods, which I will do right now, to gain 1 action point. And I can always spend trade goods at any time. So that's going to give me 1 action point. Now, here comes the enemy. They're going to raid us, and they're going to move toward the closest family, which is going to be family A. It's going to cost them 2 counters to enter family A's box because there's a corn planted there, and it basically slows the enemy down. They get distracted, destroying our food caches. Okay, so they're going to hit family A. I am going to now, as soon as they enter my box, I can do one of several different reactions. I'm going to spend my 1 action point to do an ambush. Ambush means I have to fight a battle, and what's going to happen is I'm going to roll my die first. I'm going to add +1 for my ferocity. Now my ferocity will be doubled, but it can never exceed the raid box value of the raid box where the ambush takes place. Since the raid box value here is 3, even though I have a ferocity of 3, I couldn't ever get more than that in here. In other words, the more rugged the terrain that you happen to be in, the more likely that you're going to have a successful ambush. Ambushes are tricky to set up, though. And here I think I've got a reasonable chance of success. I'm going to roll a die, and I rolled a 3. So to that I add +3 for my ferocity, so I've got 6 points now. And then he's got a horse, so that gives me 1 more. So I have a total of 7 points. Okay, now for the enemy, they're going to roll a die, but I've got a ceremony card with a 1 on it. So I'm going to discard that, because I can do that during battles. I'm going to discard it for its blessing way. And so the enemy basically rolls a 1, and the Spanish always add 4, so they have a 5, total of 5. And now I look at the charts. And in the battle charts results table, we look at the differential between our 2 die rolls. Okay, I had a modified result of 7. They had a modified result of 5, so that the result is a +2. And we look at +2 and we cross-index it on the battle occurs in raid boxes 3 or 4 column. And a +2 results in a family victory, which means the raid is a success. But it's not as good as it could have been. So all of these raid counters are gone from the raid tracks. Not from Santa Fe, though. So the raid will actually continue from Santa Fe. Basically, this represents a smaller campaign that wasn't a part of the earlier column of soldiers, and they failed to reach any of our families. So that is it. So we got to clear them off. And looking at the enemy raid flow chart, I believe the corn has to go away. We remove corn counters from raid boxes that contain raid counters. Well, since there was an ambush there, actually our corn does remain. I just want to make sure I did that right. Okay, so we didn't lose our corn there. We did ambush them, but we only got a family victory. If we'd gotten a major family victory, if I had rolled a 5 or a 6, the ambush would have been successful with a major family victory, and that would have caused enemy morale to drop down to 1. Now, this was risky because if I had failed to get at least a family or major family victory, then enemy morale would have gone back up +1. So that was a real close call. We could have gotten them down to 1, and we would have been in a very good position for an early victory here in the Spanish period. But alas, it didn't work out as planned. So at this point, the enemy has 3 APs left, so they're going to spend those to do the next instruction, which is outpost expansion. But since there's no outposts on the map, we have to look at the chart to find out what they do. And in the instruction summary, it tells us that expansion... let's see here. Okay, if there's no rancho or mission outpost on the map, treat as build outpost instruction. Okay, just want to make sure I did that right. So what's going to happen is they're going to build an outpost here in Santa Fe. These Spanish are just relentless with that. But as we reset the instruction display, we see that they're already planning 2 even bigger raids to come out against us. So we probably ought to do some things about that to slow the enemy down. So we'll go ahead and finish this demo up here with this card. We're going to go ahead and take, instead of doing planning, which, well, it's a shaman event. Let's go ahead and do planning, because I think that that would be the smarter play. So we'll go ahead and advance our elders. We get 4 APs. That might set us up for some ambushes, you know. Okay, and then the elder actions, 1 to 4, gives us 1. 1 to 3, nope. 1 to 2, gave us 1 more, excellent. 1 to 2, nope. All right, so we got 6, that's good. So we'll spend 3 of those and build, or excuse me, 2 of those and build 2 trade goods back. So we got 3 trade goods again. See, if I had 3 trade goods, when I rolled the dice for that ambush, I could have, you know, I could have re-rolled. If I'd spent 3 trade goods, I could have gotten a re-roll attempt, and so that Might have got me my 5 or 6, but I might have rolled something else and lost the battle. So all things considered, I don't think I'm in a bad position here. All right, and that's going to give me an elder here into Passage of Time box. And unfortunately, it is going to reset the cubes. But I do get to also then for the do the major event, I get to look at the next 3 cards in the deck and stack them. So let's look at 1, 2, 3. Okay. Well, now I got a tough call. If I were playing this here, I would really, at this time right now, I'd really like to get rid of that enemy outpost and just kind of clobber the enemy. If I could keep them from raiding me, I think I'd be in a very good position. So I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to stack this back how it came out. So the ceremony card is going to come up first. It's going to recycle the cubes, but I'm going to get this very cool 6 card in my hand. And then for the next card, what I'm going to do is I'll preempt the enemy. I'll go first. I'll raid. I'll get rid of that mission outpost. I'll raid New Mexico. Maybe pull 2 cubes out to slow the enemy down more. So they'll get 2. Plus 2 is 4. Minus whatever I pull out. They won't have enough to execute the topmost instruction. Assuming that it doesn't swap places or flip over into something else. If all goes well, then the enemy won't be able to do a whole lot. And then the next card is the historic event. I'm in a very good position here, and I'll have enough points to drop enemy morale down to 1. And so I'll be in a really, really good position for an automatic victory, assuming I can set up a big ambush later on. It's very hard to get the morale drop during the next couple historic cards. So if I can get the first 2 cards and then set up an ambush somewhere, then I'm good. Another way you can drop morale is if you pull a black cube out when you're raiding New Mexico and there's no more animals here in the out of play box. That takes some time to do, but it is doable. So that's another method I could use later on to get an automatically win. But with the pull of this card, just to let you know, we are halfway through the scenario. So this is a way that we have greatly sped up gameplay, streamlined several different effects, and created more tension, more decision making. It's just a really these are really, really good changes. We're really liking how the game is developing. Next up, what we'll do is we'll have to modify the 2-player rules slightly to come into sync with the new game rules that we've introduced here. So I hope you've enjoyed this demonstration of Navajo Wars. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for all your support and your pre-orders. Please keep the pre-orders coming because we're getting to a point here where if we could get up to 700 orders, we'd be in a really good place to get the game produced, if not the end of this year, then very early next year. So that's what I'm really trying to push in for. So please keep the pre-orders coming. Thank you for your support. Have a great day.